not going to lie, it's still really difficult to fathom that Mike Sullivan isn't the head coach of Pittsburgh Penguins anymore. But Kyle Dubas can't afford the luxury of having all kinds of time to ponder that or to think about the past and what Sullivan meant and all that other stuff. He has work to do. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Dubas was strikingly, even by his standards, straightforward when it came to describing what qualities he'll be seeking in his next head coach.
What we're looking for now is, we're looking to hire a great head coach, someone that could come in, continue to partner with us on all that we're undertaking, understands that the job ahead is going to be a time of transition. It's going to be continuing to maximize the prime or the end of careers of some of the players that we have, and it's going to be expeditiously developing some of the young players that have already come onto the roster or that are about to come onto the roster, continue to make tweaks and changes around the system and the way that we integrate players, put their own stamp on the organization. They don't have to continue on what's been built. On the coaching side, I think we want to protect the core ideology of the team while continuing to stimulate the outside. I think there's a lot of great things about the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we want to preserve those while continuing to move the team ahead and move the team forward. And we'll cast a wide net on this search. Longtime head coaches from Europe, coaches from junior, college, etc. We'll turn every page to find the best person for the job.
Now, that sounds really, really broad. And that sounds like, true to Dubas' own terminology, he will in fact be casting a, quote, wide net, end quote. And at the same time, if you're listening to everything that he's saying and everything that he said specifically Monday at that press conference up in Cranberry, you'll also have a pretty good sense for the fact that it's really not all that wide. He does want somebody younger. He does want somebody who hasn't already achieved a gazillion things in their career. He does want somebody who is not a retread, or that's one of those who just basically bounces back and forth between jobs as an NHL head coach. But I've got a couple of thoughts on this that take it even more specifically. Possibly. One of them is that upon hearing him speak these things live, the word that jumped out to me, maybe it did to you as well, was Europe. It's not something that people typically say when they're talking about NHL head coaching vacancies. They just don't. And as someone who once covered the first NHL head coach from Europe, the late Ivan Hollander, it really, really caught my ear. And the name that jumps to mind, for most people anyway, when the subject of Europe comes up, is Sam Hallam. He's the head coach of the Swedish men's national team, and that's a full-time gig over there. That's not like they just pluck somebody out of the Swedish Hockey League and say, hey, can you do this for a month? That's what he does. And he's a younger guy, has a really good way about himself, the way he carries himself on the job, and has gained a lot of attention in broader hockey circles as someone who could come over and possibly succeed in the NHL. And that's not about to change because, we have the Olympics coming up next February in Italy. He's going to be Sweden's coach there as well. Marco Sturm, I would imagine most of you will remember that name. He was a really, really good all-around forward for the Sharks and around the NHL for a good number of years. He has done terrific things in Germany as a head coach. I got a tip last night on another name, European, and I'm not at liberty to share it just yet, but let's just say that there's real possibilities over there. Let's also say that there are real possibilities in the AHL ranks, in the NHL assistant coaching ranks. There's also a guy right here in house, and that's David Quinn. Quinn has obviously been an NHL head coach. He hasn't exactly won it all, but he's had a couple of different positions now. whether you'd want to characterize him as a retread. I'm sure if he would have been hired like right on the spot, like Monday, if he would have just been promoted, that would have looked like one of those retread hires. It also would have looked like there'd been no thought put into this. So I could see where Dubas would, and I'm not suggesting he's faking it or that he's got Quinn in the back of his mind or whatever, but I could see where Dubas would be aware of how that would look, not just to us on the outside, but way more importantly to everybody on the inside. Like he didn't even, care to go see what else there was. This is a really, 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 really big decision. But Quinn, let the record show, in addition to having NHL experience, obviously, was the author of the Penguins' single greatest upgrade from a team standpoint over this past season. And you know what I'm talking about, because it was that power play, which was a catastrophe before he came and performed pretty much as it should have been after he came. And his fingerprints weren't the kind where I'd have to go asking the players and they would say, oh yeah, that's all Quinner, that's all Quinn doing all that. You could just see it. I was paying close attention to this from day one of training camp last fall, and in particular, what was being said about it, because I wanted to know what the plan would be, what the objective would be, so that if it were to play out, I'd be able to recognize it. And it was instant. You saw it yourself. Quick shots, quick passes. Everything was quick. Get the puck to the net quickly. Everything. Do everything quickly. Stop messing around. Stop slowing things down. Stop sticking to the perimeter. If you're not going to go to the net, at least get the puck to the net. And make sure after that you're getting bodies to the net. Stop trying to stick handle your way into the box. You get the idea. You saw all of these things. And not only did you see them at the very, very beginning, and I'm talking about the first home preseason game, the first one in which the main guys were utilized, I'm talking about the very last home game. These things stuck from beginning to end, and they were to Quinn's credit. The other advantage he'd have, obviously, is he just spent a full year with these guys. The assimilation period would be non-existent. But again, I get it. I understand what the objective of the process is. I understand the reasoning of the process. I'm going to keep saying this, though. The one thing that I'm really hoping that this isn't is Dubas just finding somebody who will listen to everything that he says, not question it, and be beholden to him, kind of in a similar spirit to what happened, I think, with Sheldon Keefe in Toronto. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Travis, who says, DK, I'm not too familiar with the Swedish Hockey League, but I do know that Philip Hollander has developed into one of the best players in that league at 24 years old, and I hear he's been drawing comparisons to another Swedish legend in Henrik Zetterberg. What do you think his ceiling could be with Pittsburgh next season, given that he just signed? And yeah, for anybody who might have missed this yesterday, Hollander signed a 2-year contract to come over, and he's doing so after a season in which his 26 goals and his 53 points both ranked second in Sweden's top league. Now, he's been here before. He spent 2 seasons in North America, most of that with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, where he had 25 goals and 36 assists over 104 AHL games, played 3 games in Pittsburgh. My conversations with him in the time that he was here, this was one very confident young man. He felt back then that he could have been playing and contributing and doing that meaningfully at the time. But He went back to Sweden. He kept playing, kept getting better by all accounts, and now evidently is ready to return and try again. What I've found most intriguing about Hollander, and this was something that I remember hearing from management at the time, specifically from Mike Sullivan, but also others, was that he's really a two-way guy. Now, you can say, of course he's a two-way guy. He's coming out of Sweden because we just assume that everybody who comes out of any Swedish system is defensively responsible. And of course, when you think of Zetterberg, you're thinking of the same thing. He's not Zetterberg. Let's not do that to him. Zetterberg was a truly great player. There were points in Zetterberg's career where he was a top 3 guy in the entire NHL. But if Hollander comes over and he is defensively accountable, regardless of who the new coach is, then he's going to be off to a really good start in terms of just his assimilation to the league. I think a lot of similar thoughts about Vasily Ponomarev when I watch him, where he's got the high floor. He's not going to hurt you when he's on the rink. And it buys you more time as a player and more ice time as a player to go ahead and contribute in other ways. Now, Hollander is more offensively gifted than Ponomarev, and I expect we'll see that as well. But listen, just because he's coming over, even though the team doesn't have a head coach yet, and I can't sit here and say, well, so-and-so is not going to like that, because we don't even know who so-and-so is, but you would hope that it doesn't mean he's guaranteed a spot. I'd like to see Hollander, and for that matter, any young player, put into positions where they have to compete. And that doesn't mean you should have to compete for ice time with Noel Acciari or Matt Nieto or whatever. It does mean you should have to compete with somebody else who's in your age or peer group. I don't want to see anybody getting handed anything, as it won't benefit anyone. And by the way, as long as I'm on this all Sweden thing today, if the Penguins do end up getting the Swedish coach and they bring over the Swedish League's number 2 scorer, and they've got Sweden's recently named Athlete of the Year in Erik Karlsson, they've got Rickard Rakell coming off the biggest year of his life. Well, let's just say that the IKEA out in Robinson Town Center is going to be doing some extra sales on meatballs. Let's do it again tomorrow. Bye.